So I happened to be there in Israel too.
And so I was on a pilgrimage with my mom in Israel, and I turned around and I saw someone who looked super familiar.
Y'all, this Erika Kirk Israeli honeypot story just got way more sinister.
Does anyone else think this is Erika Kirk putting in fake tears into her eyes?
Let everyone see what true evil is. This is something that could impact a generation and generations to come.
The Erika? It's starting to look like Charlie had no idea what kind of story he was walking into when he said, "I do," to her. What he thought was a perfect fairy tale romance is now unfolding like something straight out of a high-stakes political thriller.
Do you believe that job interview turned date turned marriage was a coincidence? Well, in Erika Kirk's own words, nothing is a coincidence.
But nothing is by coincidence.
People online are saying this wasn't some random love story at all. The whispers are wild. Some claim Erika didn't just appear in his life by chance, but was strategically placed around him for image control, influence, or even to quietly sway the moves he made behind closed doors. That's not love, that's chess. Right now, there's a honeypot theory catching fire on social media.
Every time Erika got involved in a turning point event, something felt off. People got pulled from their posts for no clear reason, replaced with names nobody recognized. They weren't loud about it. They just appeared. They'd hover, take notes, make little adjustments. It wasn't like they were running things outright, more like they were watching, testing reactions. And they did strange things, subtle stuff. Asking for background checks on volunteers who'd already cleared, rerouting internal comms through temporary systems nobody could verify, requesting access to attendee lists that had nothing to do with their role. What most people don't realize is that Erika had already started acting like CEO before Charlie even died. She was giving orders, making executive calls, speaking for the organization in ways that made all of us uncomfortable.
Suggesting Erika had deep ties with major backers linked to those same elite circles backing TPUSA. And guess what? Those are the very same high-profile donors Charlie had reportedly been clashing with just months before everything went down. Insiders say Charlie had grown restless, fed up with all the behind-the-scenes pressure and manipulation. It was getting too heavy to handle.
Charlie would try to intervene and she'd just talk over him, like he didn't even matter anymore. And then, just days after he died, they announced her as the new CEO, like she was some kind of savior stepping in during a tragedy. That didn't sit right with anyone who'd been there.
But here's the part that really got everyone's jaw dropping: the timeline. That lightning-fast jump from job interview to...
Y'all, buckle up, because Charlie Kirk's own sister just lit a match and the entire internet is already on fire. What if the picture-perfect love story we were all sold wasn't just fast, but allegedly scripted from day one? Imagine this, a whirlwind romance that went from a random burger joint interview to marriage in record time, and now the one person who's supposed to be family is stepping forward saying, "Hold up, something never felt right." Insiders close to the Kirk family are whispering that Charlie's sister Mary never bought the fairy tale version. Not even for a second. Sources say she allegedly watched the whole thing unfold and felt, in her gut, that Erika's sudden appearance in Charlie's life was just a little too perfectly timed, too polished, too convenient. And now, those private family conversations that were never meant for the public are leaking out, and people online are losing their minds. Was it really love at first sight, or was there something else behind the scenes that even Charlie started questioning before it was too late? This isn't just gossip, folks. This is the kind of family bombshell that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about one of the biggest names in conservative politics. Stick around, because what Charlie's sister is allegedly exposing right now is straight up ugly, and it's only getting started. Oh man, here we go. The moment Charlie Kirk's sister Mary stepped into the spotlight with her story, the whole conservative world felt the ground shift a little. People are calling it the family revelation nobody saw coming, and suddenly everyone's replaying old clips, zooming in on old photos, and asking the same big question. What really went down behind the scenes in that famous whirlwind romance? According to sources close to the family, Mary Kirk had been watching everything unfold for years with a quiet kind of concern. She allegedly never fully embraced the fairy tale version that the public got served, You know, the one where a simple job interview at a burger joint magically turns into dating, engagement, marriage, and then suddenly Erika is stepping up as the new face of Turning Point USA after the tragedy.
Politics,
Culture.
religion, culture,
Economics.
what else? Everything else you can imagine, he grilled me. Anything he talks about on his podcast show, he grilled me on. Pretty much.
Just didn't record it.
And then afterwards, he got finished with his burger, and he just sat there, and he looked at me. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to hire you. And I was like, that's fine. I don't need this job. I'm doing plenty of other things here in Manhattan. He's like, I'm going to date you.
Folks online are saying Mary's perspective adds a whole new layer because she's blood. She grew up in the same house, shared the same family dinners, and supposedly saw Charlie at his most real moments, the highs, the stresses, the late-night talks about the movement and the pressure that came with it. And now, whispers from people who claim to have been around the family circle suggest that Mary felt something about Erika's entry into Charlie's life always seemed unusually smooth. Not in a bad way necessarily, but just a little too perfectly timed, like a movie script that hits every beat exactly when it needs to. Let's rewind for a second and look at how the public first heard the love story. Erika herself has shared it multiple times. That spiritual trip to Israel with her mom, spotting someone who looked vaguely familiar at the airport, not approaching, then later a mutual connection leading to that now legendary meeting at Bill's Burgers in New York. Charlie grilling her for hours on philosophy, politics, culture, economics, everything under the sun. And then, instead of offering her the job, he looks at her and says something along the lines of, "I'm not gonna hire you. I'm gonna date you." That line went viral for a reason. It sounded romantic, bold, almost cinematic. People ate it up. But according to some family insiders who have spoken privately, Mary allegedly found parts of the timeline and the speed of everything a bit eyebrow-raising. Not accusing anyone of anything shady, just that as a sister, she wondered how someone could go from potential staffer to the one so quickly in the high-pressure world Charlie lived in. And let's be real, Charlie Kirk wasn't just any guy. He built Turning Point USA from the ground up into a massive youth conservative movement. He was constantly under the microscope, dealing with donors, events, media storms, and yes, plenty of people who wanted influence around him. In that kind of environment, any new person entering the inner circle naturally gets looked at closely by those who care about him. Sources say Mary's discomfort reportedly started early, not with dramatic fights or anything public, but with that sisterly intuition. The kind where you feel in your gut that the energy might not line up perfectly with what your brother needs long-term. She allegedly shared with close friends that the whole nothing happens by coincidence vibe Erika sometimes talked about in interviews made her pause, because in politics and big organizations, coincidences can sometimes feel orchestrated even when they are innocent. Then there's the background stuff that started circulating more after the tragedy. Erika's mom Lori had built businesses in tech and security spaces, moving the family toward Arizona for opportunities tied to federal and defense-related work. Public records and old interviews show Lori speaking about contracts and projects that sounded pretty serious, the kind of world that overlaps with government, military, and high-level networking. Erika's dad, Kent, was also reportedly involved in some of those early business filings, though Erika often described her upbringing as largely shaped by her strong single mom. People digging around online started connecting those dots, the defense ties, the move to Arizona, the charity work with Romanian Angels that involved U.S. military personnel delivering gifts to kids overseas. On the surface it looked wholesome. American heart shown to orphans during the holidays, Marines helping out, feel-good stories. But some observers noted the location near certain areas and wondered quietly if there was more networking happening behind the humanitarian efforts than the public realized. Again, no one is saying anything illegal here, just that when you layer it with the fast romance, the quick marriage, and then Erika stepping into major leadership roles at TPUSA, it creates a narrative that feels bigger than a simple love story. Mary, according to those who know the family, allegedly never warmed up to the relationship the way some expected. Sources claim she kept a polite distance and focused on her own path, which, interestingly, took her in a very different political direction from her famous brother. While Charlie was out there building the conservative movement, Mary reportedly leaned toward more progressive views, supporting figures like Bernie Sanders at times and pursuing work in arts and curation. That contrast alone made family gatherings interesting, to say the least. Insiders say the sisterly skepticism wasn't loud or dramatic, it was the quiet kind. The kind where you smile for the cameras but inside you're thinking, is this really the right fit? Especially when Charlie started seeming more stressed in the final months, according to some people who were around him. They claim he confided that the weight of running the organization, managing donor expectations, and balancing his personal life was getting heavier than ever. And then came the ultimate plot twist no one wanted: Charlie's shocking passing. In the aftermath, Erika was named CEO remarkably quickly. The board said it aligned with what Charlie had wanted, but online chatter exploded. People started replaying old clips of Erika at events, noticing how she sometimes spoke with authority even before the tragedy. Staff changes, new faces appearing, subtle shifts in how things operated. All of it got put under the microscope. Mary's alleged private feelings suddenly became fuel for the fire. If even Charlie's own sister had reservations from the beginning, what did she see that the rest of us missed? Was it just normal family protectiveness, or was there something deeper about the dynamics that never quite sat right? The internet, of course, went into overdrive. Memes, deep dives, timeline breakdowns, everyone trying to piece together whether this was destiny, strategy, or just two ambitious people whose paths crossed at the perfect, or imperfect, moment. Some voices online are defending Erika hard, saying she's a grieving widow doing her best to carry the torch, forgiving even in pain, and focusing on the mission Charlie built. Others are more skeptical, pointing to the speed of everything and asking why certain family members seemed quieter than expected during the big Arizona memorial. The whole situation feels like one of those political dramas where the personal and the professional blur together so much that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And now, with Mary's perspective allegedly coming more into view, the story has taken on this extra emotional weight, because when family speaks, even softly, people listen. This isn't some tabloid fluff. This touches on trust, influence, legacy, and what happens when a movement loses its founder and has to figure out who steers the ship next. And the wildest part? We're still only scratching the surface according to the people who claim to have more pieces of the puzzle. The speed of the romance, the family backgrounds, the leadership transition, the optics at memorials, it all adds up to a narrative that feels way more complex than the simple meant-to-be story we were originally sold. So what did Mary really see? Why did her gut apparently never fully buy in? And how much of this ugly side of the story is about genuine concern versus the messy reality of blending family, faith, politics, and power? That's exactly what we're diving deeper into next, because once you start pulling on these threads, things get even more interesting. Let's break it all down without the sugarcoating. The public reaction has been nothing short of explosive. One side is calling it heartbreaking family tension during unimaginable grief. The other side is treating it like the ultimate behind-the-curtain reveal in conservative politics. According to circulating reports and anonymous voices who say they were around PUSA events over the years, Erika's involvement allegedly grew faster than many expected. She went from someone who showed up at events to someone who reportedly started making calls, suggesting changes, and carrying herself with an executive energy even while Charlie was still very much leading. Some former volunteers and staffers have come forward in private chats, not naming names publicly, but describing how the vibe at certain gatherings would shift when she was present. They talk about new people appearing in key spots, background processes that felt overly cautious, and a general sense that influence was being quietly tested and adjusted. Of course, supporters push back hard, saying this is normal when a spouse is deeply involved in the mission. They point out that many power couples in politics operate as a team, and Erika brought her own experience from pageants, non-profit work, and networking circles. But the skeptics aren't letting go easily. They zoom in on that famous burger interview story and ask, was it really as spontaneous as it sounded? Charlie grilling her on every topic imaginable for hours, then flipping the script to dating instead of hiring? It makes for great storytelling, but some online analysts say the rapid progression from first real meeting to marriage felt almost too efficient for the high-stakes world they lived in. Then there's the Israel airport anecdote. Erika described spotting Charlie during a spiritual pilgrimage with her mom, feeling that familiar vibe, but not approaching. Later the connection happens through other channels. People online love dissecting these details, wondering how many small world moments can stack up before it stops feeling random. Family sources suggest Mary allegedly picked up on these layers early. As someone with her own independent path, including very different political leanings that leaned progressive at times, she supposedly viewed the entire situation with a more detached eye. Insiders claim she expressed quiet worry that her brother was moving fast in both his personal and professional life, and that the blend might create pressures he wasn't fully anticipating. Public reactions have been all over the map. On one side you have loyal PUSA supporters posting heartfelt defenses. Leave the widow alone, she's carrying an impossible burden. They share clips of Erika tearing up at the memorial, forgiving the accused shooter in a moment of faith, talking about continuing Charlie's legacy for their children. It's powerful stuff that resonates with a lot of people. On the flip side, the conspiracy corners of the internet are having a field day. Threads, videos, and comment sections are filled with people connecting dots. Erika's family's tech and security business background, the Romanian charity project that involved military cooperation overseas, the quick CEO announcement after the tragedy, the choice of Arizona for the major memorial service, where her family has deep roots. Some commentators sarcastically call it the ultimate plot twist in conservative media, joking that it has more layers than a Marvel movie. Others are more serious, saying the optics of leadership transition, staff adjustments, and family distance have left a strange taste for those who admired Charlie's independent streak. There are even claims of leaked private family messages floating around, the kind where Charlie supposedly expressed feeling like he didn't fully recognize the dynamic anymore in his later months. Whether those are real or just internet folklore is hard to say, but they are being discussed endlessly. Humor has entered the chat too, because that's how the internet copes. Memes about the burger date turning into the most expensive interview that never happened, or jokes about how fast the timeline moved compared to normal dating in 2025. One popular soundbite going around is people imitating Charlie's voice saying, "Not hiring, dating," with dramatic music. But underneath the sarcasm, there's real unease for some. They point to how Erika allegedly started acting with CEO-level confidence before the tragedy struck, giving directions at events, engaging with major donors, and positioning herself as deeply embedded in the organization's future. Supporters say she was simply being a supportive wife in the movement. Critics say it looked like a slow-motion takeover that nobody wanted to question while Charlie was still there. The Romanian Angels project gets dragged in a lot too. On paper, it was beautiful, American donors sponsoring Christmas gifts for orphans, delivered by U.S. Marines. Heartwarming videos, Lori narrating promos, the whole wholesome package. But after the tragedy, some online sleuths started questioning the location near certain zones and the sudden quiet distancing of certain names from public materials. Fact-checkers have pushed back strongly, calling most of the darker claims baseless, but that hasn't stopped the speculation from spreading like wildfire. Mary's alleged discomfort adds emotional fuel. Here's a sister who took a completely different political journey, arts curator with left-leaning views in a family defined by hardcore conservatism. People wonder if that distance made her more willing to voice what others were only thinking quietly. Public comment sections are brutal and funny at the same time. You've got people saying family knows best, others replying grief looks different on everyone, stop judging. Some drop sarcastic one-liners like nothing is coincidence, except when it's convenient. The engagement is through the roof because this story hits every button: love, power, family secrets, political legacy, and the question of authenticity in the spotlight. Even neutral observers are admitting the whole saga has a thriller-like quality. The pilgrimage story, the burger flip, the defense-adjacent family businesses, the rapid leadership handoff, the contrasting family reactions at memorials, it's the kind of narrative that keeps people clicking next video at 2 a.m. And the humor? It gets dark but creative. One trending edit shows the timeline with dramatic movie trailer voiceover, one interview, one decision, one legacy, changed forever. But at the heart of it, many are asking the human question: when does healthy family concern cross into something that feels like exposure? And how much of what we're seeing is genuine grief mixed with the brutal realities of running a major organization under constant scrutiny? The reactions prove one thing: people care deeply about Charlie's legacy. They want to believe the love story was real. They want to trust that the movement is in steady hands. But when a sister steps forward, even indirectly, with reservations that allegedly existed for years, it forces everyone to look a little closer. And the more they look, the more questions pile up. Questions about influence, timing, optics, and what carrying the torch really looks like when the original flame is gone. Questions about influence, timing, optics, and what carrying the torch really looks like when the original flame is gone. Now the big question on everyone's mind is, what happens next? The fallout from all this family tension and online scrutiny is already rippling outward, and it could shape the future of Turning Point USA and the broader movement in ways nobody predicted. Some insiders are quietly predicting internal shifts. Staff morale, donor confidence, volunteer enthusiasm, all of it reportedly feeling the pressure of constant speculation. People who have followed the organization for years say the rapid leadership change was meant to provide stability, but the swirling narratives have instead created an atmosphere of uncertainty. There's talk, again from anonymous sources, of possible reviews or deeper looks into how decisions are being made moving forward. Not official investigations in the legal sense, but the kind of internal housekeeping that big nonprofits sometimes do when public trust wobbles. Donors who like Charlie's independent voice might be watching closely to see if the direction stays true to the original mission or starts drifting. On the family side, the alleged distance between Mary and the public-facing side of things has people wondering about long-term reconciliation or whether certain family members will choose to stay completely out of the spotlight. Mary's own path, very different politically and professionally, makes any public statement from her even more impactful when it surfaces. The memorial in Arizona already became a flashpoint. Held in a massive stadium with huge names speaking, it was meant to celebrate Charlie's life and impact. But some observers noted the choice of location, tied to Erika's family roots, the tone of certain speeches, and the noticeable quiet from parts of Charlie's immediate family. Clips of Erika speaking emotionally, breaking down, talking about forgiveness, sharing memories, have been analyzed frame by frame. Some call it raw grief. Others say the body language and timing felt more performative than painful. Social media is split right down the middle. Half the comments praise her strength and faith. The other half dissects every smile, every pause, every choice of words. It's the kind of scrutiny that would crush most people, yet she continues stepping forward, talking about continuing the work for the next generation. Humor is still sneaking in as a coping mechanism. You've got edits comparing the speed of the romance to speed running a video game, or memes asking how many coincidences until it's a pattern. Even some conservative creators are joking that the story has more plot twists than a soap opera, Days of Our Political Lives. But beneath the laughs, there's real tension building. Questions about whether major donors are comfortable with the current direction. Whether young conservatives who looked up to Charlie feel the same connection now. Whether the organization can move past the personal drama and refocus on its core goals of training and activating the next generation. Some voices are calling for unity. The left is watching and laughing. Don't give them ammunition. Others say sunlight is the best disinfectant and that tough questions about leadership, transparency, and family dynamics need to be aired if the movement wants to stay strong. There's even speculation about potential future projects or splits. Could Mary's perspective lead to any indirect influence on how certain causes are handled? Or will the organization double down on the path Erika is charting? The consequences could be lasting. If trust erodes too much, funding might tighten. If the narrative spins out of control, public perception of the entire TPUSA brand could shift. And if family wounds remain unhealed, the personal cost for everyone involved becomes even heavier. Yet in classic fashion, the internet refuses to let the story die. New receipts, old interviews, and timeline updates keep dropping daily. People are treating it like a true crime documentary crossed with a political docuseries. Channels are pumping out reaction videos, analysts are breaking down every public appearance, and comment sections are turning into full debate arenas. The provocative part that keeps everyone hooked? The idea that even in conservative circles, famous for talking about family values and authenticity, the blending of personal romance, organizational power, and public image can still create messy, human complications that nobody fully controls. Erika continues to speak about faith, forgiveness, and legacy. Supporters rally around her. Skeptics keep asking for more clarity. And somewhere in the middle sits Mary's alleged quiet perspective, a sister who supposedly saw things differently from the very beginning. Will this lead to any big resignations, policy changes, or public clarifications? Will the family story ever get a fuller airing? Or will it all slowly fade as new political battles take center stage? One thing is clear. The ugly side that people are talking about isn't necessarily scandal in the criminal sense. It's the ugly reality of grief, ambition, family protectiveness, and the brutal spotlight that comes when you build something as big as Charlie Kirk did. The movement he started is now facing its biggest test yet, not from outside critics, but from the internal questions about how the story continues without him. And that, folks, is why this whole situation feels so raw, so watchable, and so important for anyone who cares about where conservatism goes from here. The truth? It's probably somewhere in the messy middle, a mix of genuine love, strategic partnership, family concerns, and the harsh realities of running a high-profile organization in today's world. But as long as people keep digging, reacting, and asking the hard questions, this chapter isn't closing anytime soon. This chapter isn't closing anytime soon. So let me ask you the question that's on everyone's mind right now. What do you think is really going on here? Was Charlie Kirk's sister Mary just being an overprotective sibling looking out for her brother? Or did she see something in Erika and the whole situation that the rest of us are only starting to notice years later? Was the famous burger interview and the lightning-fast romance the ultimate feel-good story, or was there a layer of strategy, timing, and influence that made it feel almost too perfect? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and be honest. Do you believe it was all genuine love and destiny? Or do you think the speed, the family backgrounds, the leadership transition, and the quiet family distance tell a more complicated story? Are we watching a grieving widow trying her best to carry an impossible legacy, or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes that even Charlie started questioning? I want to hear every angle. The defenders, the skeptics, the people who are just here for the drama. Because this isn't just about one family or one organization. This touches on trust, power, authenticity, and what happens when personal lives collide with massive political movements. And if you're as hooked on this story as I am, make sure you smash that like button right now. It helps push these deep dives out to more people who need to see them. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next bombshell. Because trust me, we're nowhere near done with this one. There are more timelines to break down, more insider perspectives coming, and more receipts that keep surfacing every single day. This story is way bigger than most people realize, and the truth, whatever it turns out to be, is going to shock a lot of folks when more pieces finally fall into place. So tell me in the comments, Team Mary's gut feeling, or Team Let the Widow Grieve in Peace? Which side are you on? And why? And what do you think happens to Turning Point USA now that the family tension is out in the open? I'm reading every comment. The wildest, smartest, and most honest ones might even get featured in the next video. Thanks for watching till the end. Fam, stay curious, stay awake, and I'll see you in the next one. Because this saga, it's only getting uglier, and way more interesting.